Hello again, guys. So before we go to the next lecture where we will look at our HMI, let's first see how can we trigger this inputs and outputs physically. And I mean by physically is without going there and clicking the push buttons. So I can trigger the green LED just by pushing it, as you can see here, or the red LED. But what if I want to trigger them from the software itself? So if I want to try to modify, if I try to modify the value, like if I monitor my program and right click on it and modify to 1, you can see it will not be modified. Why? Because this is an input 0.0. So it only reads the direct signal that's connected, and now it is NO connected. So to trigger this input, then we need to force it. And to force it, we have to go to force table. Okay. And let's split our screen. And as you can see here, we have our force table here and we have our program here. So in this force table, you can turn on your inputs or outputs, the peripheral ones. You can see here, insert row, add row, insert a comment line, update all force operands, start or stop, stop forcing, and here monitor all. So before I go to here, you can see here, I only have one force table and I have watch tables. So I can add as many watch tables as I want, but I can only have one force table. I can force my inputs and outputs from only one place. Okay, so let's start adding our start push button. So we can add it by the name here or the address. So I will just click on this small list here and I have all the inputs and outputs. So I will click start. Okay. And as you can see here, it got me the start push button. So let me minimize this so we can have a better look at the whole columns here. Okay, so now we can see it. All right, so let's also add the red LED. It allows us to add a new one without clicking on insert row, but you can insert as many rows and insert as many inputs or outputs you want. Okay, so we have this start push button. I actually wanted this to be the stop push button, so I will delete it and click on stop push button. And let's get here the green LED and the red LED. Okay, so if we want to force this start push button, we have to first select it. But now I cannot select it. Why? Because the force value, there is nothing that I can force it to. I can force it to 1 and hit enter, or I can just type true. So it's easier to type just 1, right? So now it's been selected and there is a warning mark here. And if we hover over it, what it says, the address is selected but is not yet being forced. So how do we force it? Is by clicking the start or replace forcing of the visible addresses in the force table. So here it will start forcing all the selected items. If you want to only force this one, then you can right click and force to 1. But now I have only one selected, so I can just start forcing. It will give me a message, force all. So it will force all the selected I know it says force all, then you will think, oh, it will force everything. No, it actually only forces the selected ones from here, this column. Okay, so let's hit yes. And now, as you can see here, the start push button is being forced and the green LED is on. If you look at the camera, okay? And as you can see here, we have 3 new indications. The first one is this F here. It indicates that this is being forced. And the second one is here. We have a little F. This means that this is being forced. And the third one is we have this yellow maintenance light, which indicates that there is a force. And this will also appear in the physical PLC, as you can see here, guys. Okay. And you can see here also, maybe we got maintenance demanded. So this also appears to be like there is a force here. Okay, so we have 4 indications. Now it's being forced, even without clicking the start push button. So what will this do is this is between the physical input and the program. So it will override whatever in the program. So it does not matter if I'm clicking it, or it does not matter its condition in the program. It will not look at the program, but it will take the command from here. So this is the strongest. If you force something from here, it's being forced, even if you programmed it to be off. Okay. All right. So if I want to stop it, then I can select it and then stop all forcing and hit yes. Okay. So what happened if I force it to false? You can see here I put 0 and now it's gonna be false. So I can start. Yes. And now it's being forced to false. So even if I trigger it, notice here, even if I trigger the green push button, it will not light up my green LED. You can see here in physical, the input, it reaches the PLC, but it will not do anything because I'm forcing it to be false. Okay. So I can click on it and stop forcing, or I can stop forcing from this icon here. So I'm gonna stop it from this right click, stop forcing, yes. Okay. And now it's stopped forcing. I can click it and it will work. So let's go ahead and do this for our green LED. So I will change the output to be 1, okay, which is true. And now I'm selecting it. So I will deselect this one, which is the start push button, and I will only select this true green LED to be forced to be on. So if I start, you can see here now the force is applied and the green LED is on, even though it's not showing here, but it is on. So even if, so it does not matter if I click the start push button or not, it will be on. Okay, as you can see in the physical one. As you can see here, it's on. Okay, so notice here, if I force it to be false and start or replace, okay, start or all forcing, you can see now it's forced to false. Even if I click the push button, see in the program it turns on, but physically it's not because it's forced to be false. Okay, so the false will override everything. Okay, so normally when you see the monitor, it's all of it says peripheral inputs can only be monitored in expanded mode. What is expanded mode? You need to click on show hide expanded mode columns. So if I click on expanded mode, you can see here and click monitor, I can know the status of my inputs, but I cannot know the status of my outputs. And this means now these inputs are not triggered. But watch what happens if I force this one to be true. Okay, I will not be able to monitor it because it's forcing. So it will just say it is true. There is a force and it is true. Okay, so I'll stop all forcing. And one important thing I want to see, this is a new one, update all force operands and values. This is really confusing. I don't recommend you using it. What it will do, so let's say that I change this to false, okay? And this is being selected. So if I turn it to true, okay, change the value to true, you can see here we have updates all force operands. If I click on that, you will see that it adds another column and it becomes confusing. Now you have to select this one, not this one, and you cannot select both of them. See, if I try to select it, no, it will say start from here. So you will have two of the start push button, and this is really confusing. So I'm gonna delete it. You don't need to use that one, okay? And notice here we have a little p here. It means peripheral input, and this access it directly from the memory. All right, so I think that's it for this lecture. And if I try to add any, so in force table, I only can add inputs and outputs, peripheral inputs and outputs. But if you want to monitor the memory bits and other tags and all other data types, then you need to add a watch table. And in the watch table, you can add as many tags as you want, and you can watch them and you can modify their values. Okay, and we will look at that later. Okay, when we deal with tags. All right, so that's it for now. Let me stop all forcing. So I don't recommend you to do forcing. The reason is by doing this, you may trigger something. So if it's not in production mode or if it is only for testing, then you may turn on. Please be safe because turning on forcing or forcing inputs or outputs may kill someone in some cases. So please pay full attention before you force any inputs or outputs. And usually engineers will force inputs or outputs when they do a bypass. And in the companies that I worked at, if you're gonna do a safety bypass or something like that, then you need signatures, and there is a form that you need and a process that you need to follow in order to do that. And one requirement is to have the signature of at least two engineers, the safety one and the manager of controls engineers, to do that so they can make sure that this is safe. Okay, so this is not a joke, guys. All right, but now you know how to force and stop your inputs and outputs. All right, thank you, guys.